The story of Isaac, Abraham's son. Isaac was the long-awaited son of Abraham and Sarah, a miracle child born to them in their old age as a fulfillment of God's promise. His story is one of faith, sacrifice, and divine provision. The promise of Isaac. God had promised Abraham that he would be the father of many nations, but for many years, Abraham and Sarah remained childless. When Abraham was 100 years old and Sarah was 90, God reaffirmed his promise, and Sarah miraculously conceived. She gave birth to a son and named him Isaac, which means, he laughs, because Sarah had laughed in disbelief when she first heard she would bear a child in her old age, Genesis 21 verses 1-7. The test of Abraham's faith. When Isaac was a young man, God tested Abraham's faith in a profound way. He commanded Abraham to take Isaac to Mount Moriah and offer him as a sacrifice. Though this was agonizing, Abraham obeyed, trusting that God would provide. As he prepared to sacrifice Isaac, an angel stopped him, saying, "Do not lay a hand on the boy. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son." Genesis 22 verse 12. Abraham then saw a ram caught in a thicket and sacrificed it instead. This event foreshadowed God's ultimate sacrifice of his own son, Jesus, and demonstrated Abraham's unwavering faith. Isaac's life and legacy. Isaac grew up to become a peaceful and faithful man. He married Rebekah, who bore him twin sons, Jacob and Esau. Though Isaac favored Esau, God chose Jacob to continue the covenant promise. Isaac's life was marked by God's blessings. He prospered as a herdsman and redug the wells his father had dug, despite opposition from the Philistines. God reaffirmed his covenant with Isaac, just as he had with Abraham, Genesis 26 verses 3-5. Isaac lived to be 180 years old and was buried by his sons in the cave of Machpelah alongside Abraham and Sarah. His story is a testament to God's faithfulness, the power of faith, and the fulfillment of divine promises through generations. Key lessons from Isaac's story. God's promises are sure, even when circumstances seem impossible, God fulfills his word. Faith requires obedience. Abraham's willingness to sacrifice Isaac shows complete trust in God. God provides, just as he provided the ram for sacrifice, he meets our needs in ways we may not expect. 1. Isaac's unique birth and early life. Miraculous conception. Isaac's birth was a divine miracle, as Sarah had been barren and was far past childbearing age. His arrival fulfilled God's covenant promise to Abraham, Genesis 17 verse 19. Circumcision. On the 8th day, Isaac was circumcised, marking him as part of God's covenant people, Genesis 21 verse 4. Weaning feast. When Isaac was weaned, likely around 3 to 5 years old, Abraham held a great feast, but this also led to tension when Sarah saw Ishmael, Abraham's son, with Hagar, mocking Isaac. As a result, Hagar and Ishmael were sent away, Genesis 21 verses 8-14. 2. The binding of Isaac, Akedah, a deeper look. Location. Mount Moriah, where Abraham was told to sacrifice Isaac, is traditionally believed to be the same place where Solomon later built the temple in Jerusalem, 2 Chronicles 3 verse 1. Isaac's willingness, Jewish tradition, and some Christian interpretations, suggest that Isaac, possibly a young man at the time, willingly submitted to his father, understanding the sacrifice as an act of faith. Foreshadowing Christ, the event is seen as a type, symbolic parallel, of Christ's sacrifice, God providing a substitute, the ram, just as he would later provide Jesus as the ultimate sacrifice, John 3 verse 16. 3. Isaac's marriage to Rebekah. Divinely arranged, Abraham sent his servant to find a wife for Isaac from his relatives in Mesopotamia, Genesis 24. The servant prayed for a sign, and Rebekah, granddaughter of Abraham's brother Nahor, showed kindness by offering water to him and his camels. Love and comfort. Isaac married Rebekah when he was 40, and the Bible notes that he loved her and was comforted after his mother's death, Genesis 24 verse 67. 4. Isaac's later life and struggles. Famine and deception. Like Abraham, Isaac faced a famine and went to Gerar, where he lied about Rebekah being his sister, fearing for his life, just as Abraham had done with Sarah. King Abimelech discovered the truth and protected them, Genesis 26 verses 1-11. Prosperity and conflict. God blessed Isaac with abundant crops and flocks, making the Philistines envious. They filled in his wells, dug by Abraham, but Isaac persisted, reopening them and digging new ones, including Beersheba, well of the oath, Genesis 26 verses 12-33. Parental favoritism. Isaac favored Esau, the hunter, while Rebekah favored Jacob. This led to deception when Jacob, with Rebekah's help, stole Esau's blessing, Genesis 27. Despite this, God's covenant promise continued through Jacob. 5. Isaac's death and legacy. Blessing his sons. In his old age, Isaac was blind and frail, but he still played a key role in passing on the covenant blessing, first unintentionally to Jacob, then later, knowingly, confirming it, Genesis 27-28. Burial. He died at 180 and was buried by Esau and Jacob in the cave of Machpelah alongside Abraham, Sarah, Rebekah, and later Leah, Genesis 35 verses 27-29. 6. Isaac's character and spiritual significance. A man of peace, unlike Abraham, who fought kings, and Jacob, who wrestled with God, Isaac is often seen as a quiet, passive figure, yet his life was marked by trust in God's provision. The fear of Isaac. In Genesis 31 verse 42, Jacob refers to God as the fear of Isaac, suggesting Isaac had a deep reverence for the Lord. Covenant continuity. Isaac was the bridge between Abraham, the father of faith, and Jacob, father of the 12 tribes. God's promise was fulfilled through his lineage. 7. Isaac in Jewish and Christian tradition. Judaism. In Jewish thought, the Akedah, binding of Isaac, is central to the concept of sacrifice and obedience, remembered during Rosh Hashanah. Christianity. Isaac is seen as a type of Christ, both were only sons, offered in sacrifice, and both carried wood, Isaac the firewood, Jesus the cross. Islam. Known as Ishaq, he is revered as a prophet and a key figure in the lineage of prophets. Final reflection. Lessons from Isaac's life. God's faithfulness. Even when his promises seem delayed, he keeps his word. Submission to God's will. Both Abraham and Isaac teach us about surrendering our deepest desires to God. Legacy of faith. Isaac's quiet obedience ensured the continuation of God's redemptive plan. Isaac's legacy continued through Jacob, later named Israel, leading to the 12 tribes of Israel and ultimately to Jesus Christ, the promised Messiah.